Hi, it's the middle of April, so it's time for my mid-month wrap-up, and I've got 10 books to talk to you about today. I seem to have had a really good first half. The first one was on the Women's Prize for Long List Fiction, the Women's Prize for Fiction long list, and it's Black Butterflies by Priscilla Morris. And this one is set in the first year of the siege of Sarajevo. And we follow Zora, who's 55, who's an artist, a professor of art. The year's 1992, and she sends her mother and her husband to the UK, thinking that this siege, this war is only going to last a few weeks, few months. But things worsen, and it's a harrowing account of her time in Sarajevo, when they lose water, when they lose power, when everything is just against her. But it's a harrowing account. But because she's an artist, the colour palette that the author uses is wonderful. The next one was a NetGalley arc that comes out on the 20th of this month, 20th of April. And this is the third book that I've read by Catriona Ward, and it's Looking Glass Sound. And as with all of Catriona Ward's books, you never know where you're going to go with them. And this one, we start in the summer of 1989, and Wilder is at Whistler Bay, where he meets Nat and Harper. But this summer that promises so much, there's horrifying discoveries made. And then we move forward, and Wilder is at college, and he meets Skye, who becomes his best friend, but who ultimately betrays him. It turns into a maze. Your fact and fiction blur. You don't know who's real. We've got ghosts. We've got horror. Everybody's got secrets. We've got obsession, love, grief, friendship, betrayal. It's got everything that Catriona Ward's books normally have in them. The next one was another one from the Women's Prize long list, and it's Wandering Souls by Cecile. And this is about Vietnamese boat people. We follow Anne and her brothers, who in 1979 leave for Hong Kong. The idea is that her father wants the three older children to go on the boats first, and he will follow with his wife and the younger ones. They'll all meet up in Hong Kong, and then from there they'll go to America, where his brother is. Not very far into the book, you realise that there's only one of these boats that actually survives, and it's the one with Anne on. And you have descriptions of the camps and the crossings, and how eventually she comes into the Britain of the 1980s. And it's her story. It's the story of how she's mother to these two young boys. But we've got other voices as well. We've got the voice of one of her little brothers that didn't survive, as a ghost, as a wandering spirit. And then you've got a sort of like a newspaper report giving factual accounts of things that occurred. Next one was on the Carnegie Medal Prize long list, and this was When Our Worlds Collided. And it's about three black teenagers who come together when a 14-year-old is stabbed. These three teenagers, very different backgrounds, and they would never normally meet, but these are the three people that try and help this boy when he's stabbed. You've got Jackson, who's from a wealthy background. You've got Chantel, who lives with her gran and younger sister, and then you've got Mark, who's in care. And it's a story of racism and prejudice. What happens is shocking, and you've got the two sides. And the themes aren't easy, but they're very accessible for a young adult. And next one, another NetGalley. And this was the Claire Fuller's The Memory of Animals, that also comes out on the 20th of April. It's a dystopian novel. You can't really describe it as a COVID novel because it deals with a virus, but it's a very, very different type of virus. It's a virus that makes organs and bodies swell and memories fade. And you've got Neffy, who signs up to be a human guinea pig. She signs up for a trial because it's come to such a state that it's sink or swim. This is almost the last attempt to find a vaccine for this this virus. And she enters this facility, she takes the vaccine and the virus, and when she does come round, she finds the world's changed because there's only her and 4 volunteers in this facility. Everybody else has gone. And it's the story of the relationship between them, the power dynamics between these 4. We've got her memories, we've got letters that she's writing to dear H, and through her memories we find out her background and how she comes to be in the facility. And it's about relationships in a crisis. And the ending, I didn't expect the ending, not at all. The next one was another one from the long list, Women's Prize for Fiction long list, and this was Fire Rush by Jacqueline Crooks. And it was difficult for me to get into it in the very beginning because it's in Jamaican patois, but it didn't stop me enjoying it because there's rhythm in the prose. Yame, she's raised by her father, but a weekend she dances in this underground club, the Crypt, and it's all dub reggae music, which I didn't know what it was until I googled it. This is my age coming in here. One of these dancing nights she meets Moose and their connection is instantaneous. Then there's a tragedy and she gets sucked into riots, protests for police brutality. She goes away to Bristol where she becomes part of a criminal gang. Then she goes to Jamaica. And it's almost her story as she comes to terms with her life, of who she is. There's lots of colour and vibrancy in the book, especially in the scenes set in Jamaica. And there's the rhythm of the prose as well. And she is somebody that you follow. She's somebody that you connect with. And there are characters in here with heart, but there are some that do not have any heart at all. Another one from the Women's Prize long list is Children of Paradise by Camilla Grudova. And this is set in a cinema that's past its prime. It's dilapidated, it's falling apart. And it's home to a bunch of very eccentric characters. Holly goes to work there. She sees a sign that they're hiring. She goes in. And initially, nobody talks to her. She just does her job and she goes home. But eventually they begin to accept her and she gets sucked into their life. And this little group, their life is the cinema. They don't do anything really apart from the cinema, because when they're not working at the cinema, they're at each other's houses watching films. The job of cleaning up the cinema after each show, the descriptions of what they pick up are absolutely gross at times. And they steal what they find. If there's any drugs left behind, they take them. They're high all the time. And it's almost as though the cinema itself is almost like another character, because it gives them visions, or it seems to give them visions. And when the owner dies and a modern cinema chain takes over, then we get into bloody violence. It's a strange little book, but it's got growing darkness and horror, and you're just drawn into it and swept away with it. The next one was another NetGalley, and it comes out on the 25th of April. And it's the first book that I've read by T.J. Klune, and it's In the Lives of Puppets. And this one, I really did enjoy. I laughed, I smiled, I was tense, there's a heartbreak in here. You've got Gio, who's a creator and an inventor, and he's an android. And he lives in the forest with his human son, Victor. And together they've found broken robots, and restored them, and their little family consists of Rambo, who's a vacuum, and Nurse Ratchet, who's a machine that was designed to heal, to administer medication and stuff. And this the little family in the forest. And one day the Rambo, Nurse Ratchet and Victor go off. They find on the scrap heaps a decommissioned android who's a bit broken, and they bring him back. They name him Hap, and they bring him back to restore, but they hide this from Geo. A decision that has dire consequences, because it ends up with Victor, Rambo, Nurse Ratchet and Hap setting out on a perilous journey. There's tension there. There's nods to Pinocchio. I think there's nods to Wizard of Oz as well. And you look, the characterizations are great. Rambo is this annoying child, and Nurse Ratchet is just terrific. The next one I read was another one from the Carnegie Medal long list, and this is the Blackthorne Branch by Elen Caldecott, and it's to do with Welsh mythology. You've got the story also of family and grief. You've got Cassie, who lives with her teenage brother and parents, whose best friend is her cousin Sean. And when Byron goes missing and she finds out that he's made a bargain with the Welsh fairies, it's up to Sean and her to try and rescue him from being sucked into the underworld and never coming back again. There's magical descriptions, there's tension, there's magic. Ideal for an older child. They will absolutely love this one. And the final one I read this half of the month is another NetGalley arc. This one comes out on the 27th of April, and it's The North Shore by Ben Tufnell. It's described as a Gothic debut, and it took me by surprise because it wasn't the Gothic that I was expecting. The beginning, it does have a Gothic element to it. We're in North Norfolk, and at the beginning we have the young boy. He's alone in a storm, and he finds this half-naked man washed up on the shingle beach, a man he believes initially is dead. And then he gets him back to his house, and then we have strange occurrences. And then we move to when this young boy is an adult. He's a botanical illustrator, and these are his notes and his research as he's trying to make sense of his childhood memories. Did everything happen as he thinks he remembers it happened? And he's almost obsessed with the idea of transformation, of humans becoming plants. He tells the stories from Ovid's Metamorphoses. He's looking at art where artists have depicted humans turning into plants and trees. He's searching for the connection between these transformation stories and his own experience. Is everything that he remembers real? And this is the writing, and this is beautiful, the descriptions of the coast and the storm. So those are the 10 books that I read this month, the beginning of this month. I didn't get any I haven't had a 5-star yet this month. I haven't had a book that made me go, oh, wow. I enjoyed them all, but there wasn't a 5-star there. My favourite one was actually T.J. Klune in The Lives of Puppets. That was my favourite one of the half month. So we'll see what happens in the second half of the month. I think I'll be very lucky to read 10 in the second half of the month. So I will leave you. I will go back to Demon, and I'll catch you later. So happy reading. Take care.